Silly Polly Beast is a super stylish survival horror game with a strong focus on punishing combat and dark narrative that answers the question, what if John Wick went to Silent Hill? You play as Polly, a young girl trapped in the abyss, fighting to escape. Her story through the underworld is told over 5 chapters, each with a boss encounter waiting for you at the end, and the story being laid out via inner monologues and flashbacks. These short story beats not only push the story forward, but give us a sense of who Polly is as a person and what happened to her in the past to get her here. But if you want to know the how and why of it, you'll have to play it for yourself. The first and only thing I'd ever seen about this game was the launch trailer, and story-wise at least, it gives almost nothing away, so I went into this almost completely blind, and I think you should too. But I'll warn you now, it deals with a lot of heavy subject matter that will likely trigger a few people, and a couple of scenes even had me wincing. It is not for the faint of heart. But if disturbing psychological horror is your thing, I think you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of this. Combat in Silly Polly Beast is insane and will test both your skill and your patience as you die over and over and over again. Silly Polly flashing up each time, somehow even more mocking than the standard "you died" we're used to since Dark Souls made sadism mainstream. Luckily, Polly has a pretty effective arsenal at her disposal. Her main weapon for taking on the hordes of the underworld is the Demolver, a revolver that fires bullets called Steel Messengers. It can initially only hold 6 bullets at a time, which can be replenished at soul barrels littered around the world or from random enemy drops. But it is possible to find additional bullets hidden throughout the game that upgrade your capacity by 1 each time. When playing with controller, you aim with the right stick and fire with a shoulder button, but aiming doesn't lock on, so just because there's a target on the enemy doesn't mean your attack will land. This can be tricky at first and frustrating at times, especially when fighting multiple enemies at once, as ammo is scarce and a stray bullet can mean the difference between life and death. But it never feels unfair. In addition to her Demolver, Polly also has a skateboard. This can be used to break boxes and barriers in your way, but mostly it's for melee combat. Each swing reduces Polly's stamina gauge, and the initial size of the gauge means she's limited to a 4-hit combo early on. But once she goes stronger and her stamina increases, so does her combo, making it even more effective. In addition to swinging, her board can also be thrown, which I only really used for destroying explosive traps. Just don't stand too close. And there's a skateboarding minigame that sees you zooming down a tunnel, popping shove-its over obstacles and dying instantly if you hit anything. Retrying sees the tunnel randomly generate into a new layout, so learning where you went wrong isn't an option. It's about quick reflexes and following the money collectibles along the way to hopefully lead you down the right path. Mercifully, there is an option to skip these parts and get on with the main game if you find them too difficult, but we don't do that here. As effective as the skateboard is as a melee weapon, it can get frustrating at times. The more savvy enemies will hop out of the way, leaving you to swing at the air where they used to stand. And it constantly knocks weaker enemies back, forcing you to miss the second strike of your combo. It also feels inconsistent on when it does or doesn't interrupt enemy attacks, causing you to take what can feel like unfair damage at times. But that's most likely just a skill issue on my part. Polly also has access to demon lava, which can be thrown like a grenade for area of effect damage, or fed to stump killers to take out a random enemy in the current arena. It's a cool mechanic, but it's easily exploitable because if the stump killer doesn't take out your intended target, you can just die and try again. And on each of my playthroughs, I found throwing them into groups was the optimal choice. Eventually, Polly can carry a sub-weapon, like a shotgun for powerful spread damage, or a submachine gun for rapid fire. These can only be replenished with ammo drops from fallen enemies, or buying them from the weapon store, but they are absolute game changers as far as turning the tide of battle is concerned. My personal favourite is found in the back half of the game that I haven't mentioned here, so I'll let you discover that one for yourself. Every time Polly enters a room, the game auto-saves, meaning if you enter a room with no ammo, no healing items and barely any health, you're stuck there until you win. It can feel broken and unfair at times, and it'll be a deal breaker for a lot of people, but in my opinion, it's all part of what makes the game so much fun. Each combat encounter is like a puzzle to be solved. Dying and respawning is almost instantaneous, and there's no backtracking, so you're back in the action within seconds. And the same enemies respawn in the same places and patrol the same routes again and again and again, giving you an opportunity to try a new approach each time. I'll admit, there is some RNG involved, but if you keep retrying, eventually the first enemy you kill will drop some shotgun ammo and everything starts to feel fair again. Honestly, the combat in Silly Polly Beast is amazing. Controls are tight and responsive, and you feel completely in control the whole time, even when things are getting out of hand. Polly has a dodge roll with generous iframes, and for once it doesn't drain stamina. Stamina won't regenerate while rolling, but you're free to dodge without restriction, and honestly it makes the difference between the combat feeling challenging instead of unfair. And that kind of balance needs to be appreciated. As I said up top, this is a survival horror, so the heavy action is, thankfully, interspersed with moments of downtime and sections of light environmental puzzle solving and exploration. The puzzles in question are far from taxing and usually equate to nothing more than dragging an object somewhere or navigating hazards using some unexpected but well implemented and fun flight mechanics. But where these puzzles are best is when they're the main focus of an area. One of my favourite bosses in the game, which I'm not going to show here because I want you to experience it how I did, is like one giant combat puzzle to solve. And getting that eureka moment when I figured out what needed to be done, followed by the exhilaration of trying to pull it off or being attacked, was, as they say, palpable. As for the downtime, not everyone Polly encounters is an enemy. There's a base with a medic you can talk to who will give you a healing item if you're ever without, and a mysterious kiosk you can visit where you can buy health items and ammo, and trade mask items you collect from enemies for special rewards. You can also talk to NPCs, and eventually unlock a way to quick travel between areas, so you will be spending a lot of time here. Ammo and health items have a maximum carry capacity, but to be honest I was getting battered so often I was never able to carry more than 2 or 3 healing items at a time because I was constantly using them. But things like key items, skateboard designs and new clothes take up their own space in the inventory, so item management isn't a thing in this game. So if you are hoping for a Resident Evil 4 style inventory system to match the similar gameplay, you'll be disappointed. One thing I love, but never fully utilised, is the fact a lot of combat encounters can be avoided entirely with the help of a stealth mechanic. By putting up her hood and keeping her head down, Polly is able to slink past enemies at a distance and remain undetected as long as she doesn't get too close. And it's possible to unlock masks to give her a better chance of sneaking past certain enemy types. It's a great mechanic that offers completely optional stealth to help you get past some of the encounters you're struggling with. And it's nice to see a stealth mechanic in a non-stealth game that doesn't suck. Much like how I feel about the combat, I love the slower moments and exploration in Silly Polly Beast. One of my favourite sections in the game is almost completely made up of exploring and puzzle solving, almost like House Beneviento in Resident Evil Village, and I find the general balance between combat and exploration to be almost perfect. Wrapping things up then, I need to talk about the visual and sound design. I absolutely adore this game's aesthetic. The almost Don Bluth meets anime-inspired character designs are slick and stylish, and the mix of bleak, almost realism of the war-torn streets combined with the Persona-esque weirdness creates a package that is absolutely striking at times. The design of the Embers, this game's enemies, managed to take something that wouldn't be out of place in Silent Hill and do something original with it. The story and world building is fantastic, and despite being a little tropey in places, the predictability of certain aspects of the story feel deliberate because we're constantly being drip-fed context clues. From what I can tell, the main art, story and development was all done by one guy, Andrei Chernyshov, with later help from publisher Top Hat Studios, who have been on an absolute winning streak lately with games like Crypt Custodian and Paper Animal Adventure under their belt. But the fact that the lion's share of this thing was made by a solo developer is mind-blowing. The game opens with the words, "A game by Andrei Chernyshov," which I thought was as funny as it was bold because I'd never heard of him. But after playing this through several times, seeing all 5 endings and unlocking the Platinum Trophy, I can tell you, Andrei Chernyshov is now a name firmly on my watch list, and I can't wait for his next project, 5.5 Runes. And I hate visual novels. I also want to give mention to the frankly excellent music in this game. From what I can tell, it comes from an artist called Bass and Panda, and it's just fantastic. It's a great mix of heavy bass and cyberpunk electronica with absolutely filthy chugging guitar riffs that would give Mick Gordon a stiffy. It's one of the best soundtracks I've heard in a while, and I'd love it to become available to buy in some form. But until then, I'm going to leave a link to Bass and Panda's YouTube channel in the description so you can go and check out their stuff and support a deserving artist. Overall, I'd happily say Silly Polly Beast is one of the best games I've played this year, and a total surprise. I'd never heard of it until the launch trailer randomly popped up in my YouTube feed. I don't know why I decided to watch it, but I'm glad I did. I love the challenging combat, although I'll admit it did have me absolutely raging at times, much to my fiance's amusement and annoyance. And the middle phase of the final boss can absolutely get fucked and almost ruin the entire experience for me. If you know, you know. But other than that little blip, I have no complaints about the challenge or overall difficulty. I thought it was pretty bang on. To be honest, I don't really have any notes. This game is excellent and well worth the 15 quid asking price. So that's it for my silly Poly Beast review. Check it out, buy it, support indie devs, and I'll see you in the next video.